My husband always told me I was lucky he stayed with me. He said I was plain, talentless, and that without him, I was nothing. For 10 years I believed him. I made his tea at exactly 85 degrees, ironed his shirts until the creases could draw blood, and let him erase my soul. But then, on our 10th anniversary, he poured a glass of red wine over the only thing I had left, my art. He laughed and told me I didn't have a soul for beauty. That was the moment I stopped being his wife and started being his nightmare. By the time I was done with him, he didn't just lose his marriage, he lost his freedom, his reputation, and every cent he tried to hide from me. If you've ever been underestimated, disrespected, or told you weren't enough, this story is for you. Today we're looking at a masterclass in the slow burn revenge. Mira didn't just leave, she dismantled a monster piece by piece. Hit that like button if you believe in karma, subscribe for more justice, and let's get into the story of the Invisible Woman. For 10 years, Mira wasn't a person. She was a ghost. Samir didn't use his fists. He was too refined for that. Instead, he used his tongue like a scalpel, cutting away at Mira's self-worth until there was nothing left but a hollow shell. Every morning started the same. The 8 a.m. alarm, followed by the silent ritual of the kitchen. The tea had to be exactly 85 degrees Celsius. Not 80. Not 90. If it was too cool, he'd slide the cup off the table and watch it shatter without breaking eye contact. If it was too hot, he'd sigh, that long, disappointed sigh that made Mira feel like a failing child, and comment on how unfortunate it was that she couldn't master a simple kettle. He isolated her. He'd tell her her family only called because they wanted money. He'd tell her her friends whispered about how plain she'd become since the wedding. Slowly, the world outside their pristine, cold suburban home ceased to exist. Before Samir, Mira was a painter. She saw the world in ochre, ultramarine, and burnt sienna. But Samir had convinced her that her art was childish. He called it a cute hobby before eventually pressuring her to pack the brushes away. For their 10th anniversary, Mira wanted to find the man she fell in love with. She spent 6 weeks in the attic, breathing in the nostalgic scent of linseed oil, restoring a canvas she'd started a decade ago. It was a landscape of the coast where they met, vibrant, hopeful, and full of light. When Samir came home, she presented it to him, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. "Happy anniversary, Samir," she whispered. Samir didn't smile. He didn't even look at the brushwork. He swirled the Cabernet in his glass, walked up to the canvas and tilted his hand. The deep, blood-red liquid soaked into the sky of the painting, staining the clouds, dripping down like a wound. "Stick to the laundry, Mira," he said, his voice terrifyingly calm. "You don't have the soul for beauty. You're just empty." He laughed, a dry, rattling sound, and walked away to take a business call. That night, Mira didn't cry. The tears were gone. In their place was something cold and heavy. A realization hit her. Samir wasn't powerful. He was a parasite. He needed her submission to feel like a king. If she stopped submitting, his throne would crumble. The revenge began the next morning. For the next 6 months, Mira played the role of the perfect, broken wife. She was even quieter. She was even more precise with the tea. But beneath the surface, she was a tactician. First, the secret gallery. Every night when Samir fell into his wine-induced sleep, Mira crept to the basement. She didn't paint landscapes anymore. She painted him. She painted the way his lip curled when he was cruel. She painted her own suffocating lungs. She painted under a pseudonym, the Invisible Woman. She contacted an old mentor from art school, a man Samir had forced her to block years ago. He saw her new work and wept. He began organizing a secret exhibition. Next, the paper trail. Samir thought Mira was too simple to understand finances. Because of that, he was sloppy. While cleaning his office, Mira found the discrepancies. Samir was a high-level executive at a tech firm, but he was also a thief. He was funneling corporate funds into an offshore account in the Caymans. Money meant for her future too. She didn't scream. She didn't confront him. She bought a high-speed scanner and a burner phone. Every night, she scanned. Every night, she sent PDFs to a safe, encrypted cloud drive. She started leaving her phone on voice memo mode during dinner. She captured hours of his psychological warfare. "You're lucky I'm the one who married you, Mira. No one else would look twice at a woman as dull as you." The climax came at Samir's firm's 25th anniversary gala. It was a black-tie event. Hundreds of city elites, the board of directors, and the local press were there. Samir was the guest of honor, set to give a keynote speech about integrity in leadership. He told Mira to wear a beige dress, something modest, so she wouldn't embarrass him. Instead, Mira arrived 30 minutes late. She walked into the ballroom wearing a dress, the color of a forest fire. She looked radiant. She looked dangerous. Samir glared at her from the stage, but he couldn't do anything in front of the cameras. "And now," the MC announced, "a presentation on the future of our company, curated by our Vice President Samir." Samir stepped to the mic, smiling his shark-like smile. "Behind me you'll see the numbers that define our success." The giant projector screen flickered. It didn't show quarterly profits. First, a document appeared. It was a bank statement from the offshore account, highlighted in neon yellow, showing Samir's name and the millions he'd stolen from the company shareholders. The room gasped. Samir froze, his hand still holding the clicker, frantically pressing buttons that did nothing. Then, the audio started. Mira's voice didn't come through the speakers. Samir's did. It was loud, echoing through the hall. "Stick to the laundry, Mira. You don't have the soul for beauty." The recording played his most vitriolic insults one after another, layered over images of her paintings, the ones he said she couldn't create. The painting showed a man who looked exactly like Samir but stripped of his expensive suit, looking small, ugly and pathetic. The invisible woman wasn't invisible anymore. Samir turned a ghostly, translucent white. He looked at Mira in the crowd, his mouth hanging open. He expected to see a woman trembling in fear of his wrath. Instead, Mira walked right up to the stage. She took the microphone from his limp hand. "You told me I had no soul for beauty, Samir," Mira said, her voice steady, echoing with a decade of suppressed strength. "But the truth is, you were just a smudge on my canvas. A dark spot I allowed to stay for far too long. Today, I'm finally wiping it clean." She didn't wait for him to respond. She didn't wait for the police, who were already entering the lobby. She simply turned her back on him and walked out. Samir lost everything that night. His job, his reputation, and eventually his freedom. But for Mira, the money wasn't the point. As the sun rose the next morning, she was in a small studio by the sea, staring at a blank canvas. For the first time in 10 years, the only voice in her head was her own. There is nothing more dangerous than a person who has been pushed too far and has the patience to wait for the perfect moment. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button. It helps the channel out a ton. And tell me in the comments, what's the best slow burn revenge you've ever seen? Don't forget to subscribe for more stories of justice served cold. I'll see you in the next one.